Georgia, is mission mó con extreme, agus fáilte go dtí ma fiseán, ma céad fiseán de bhliain 2000 is dóideag. It's my first video of 2012. We're actually like halfway through January now. It's the 14th of January as I record this. Haven't had a chance until now to make a video. Obviously haven't had a chance to make a video at home because I'm outside now. You can see I'm in a field here somewhere. I'm on a little bit of a road trip and I'm on my own. Joy and Oisin aren't with me because they've actually gone on holiday to the Philippines. They just left 2 days ago on Thursday the 12th for a couple of weeks. I stayed here at home in Ireland because I'm doing a course at the moment, an IT course that I obviously want to finish and don't want to miss you know, any study time or any like course days, class days, you know. So obviously I stayed here so I can finish that, and they went on a little bit of a little holiday for a couple of weeks. So I said while I was free and it's the weekend, after I dropped them at the airport, they went with my mother as well, and after I dropped them at the airport I stayed up with my sister first, and then I stayed with my cousin last night in Dublin because I want to do a little bit of a road trip to see a few things that I've always wanted to see and I've never been to see. And my first stop is in County Louth and near the town of Knockbridge. I've come to see, where is it? There it is, Chulainn Stone. For anyone unfamiliar with Irish myths and legends, Chulainn was a great hero in Irish legend, Celtic mythology, and he's one of my favourite stories, one of my favourite kind of characters in Irish legend, and I've always wanted to come and see this stone, Chulainn Stone, and I've never even been this far up north in the country. And actually later I'm going up to the Giant's Causeway, which is pretty much near enough as north as you can get on the island of Ireland. This is my first time here, and that'll be my first time in the Giant's Causeway later on, so I'll have some video there later as well. But this is my first stop here. I've always wanted to see this, and I'm finally here now, and it is a sight to see. It's closer to the road than I expected. I knew it was in the middle of the field, and I'd have to park the car by the road. The road is back there. You can see that white building there. That's just where the road is and where I've parked the car. And obviously it's in the middle of the field here. From the descriptions I read about it, I thought I'd have to walk a bit further from the road to get to it. But you can actually see it from the road when you're driving, just as you're almost here, and you can see it in the field. And it was quite a sight to finally catch a glimpse of it in person. And definitely quite a sight to actually be here in person. Another reason why I came here is because my long-time viewers will know that I kind of have made a tradition out of, on St. Patrick's Day every year, I would tell a story or narrate a story to do with some sort of an Irish legend, an Irish Celtic legend. And I've always wanted to tell a story involving Chulainn, but I didn't. Like all the stories I've told so far, it's me narrating over video footage of like Irish scenery, and it's always scenery that I filmed around the Waterford area where I'm from. But there's a few stories that I don't want to tell unless I have footage of something that that involved the characters in the story that I'm telling. And this is one of them. I've always wanted to tell a story involving Chulainn, and I didn't want to do it unless I was able to come here first and get footage of this stone, and that's another reason why I'm here, so I can get footage for that video for later. The stone actually is pretty much the end of Chulainn's story, because this is supposedly where Chulainn died. Personally, when it comes to like stuff like myths and legends, especially Celtic legends, or even like Greek legends like Hercules and all things like that, and Achilles, and the stories of Troy and Atlantis, and especially when it comes to Irish legends, to me, like, there's a difference between something like that's a fairy tale and something that's a legend. To me, a legend is something that, even though it seems a bit fantastical, it seems a bit exaggerated, a legend must, to me, in my kind of the way I want to believe it, have some little part of it, no matter how fantastical the legend or story is, there must be some little part of it that is true in some way. Like even if just there was a character who did certain things, and then as his story was retold and told throughout the years and generations, it became exaggerated and sensationalized and changed slightly, but at the core center there was at some point a person that story was actually based around. And I like to think that like Irish stories do have that kind of some sort of a reality behind them. Like let's take for instance the story of Jesus. I'm not a great religious person, but at some level I do think, while I think most of the story or a lot of the stories in the Bible are or were exaggerated and sensationalized as they were passed on from mouth to mouth and through the years and through the generations. So I don't believe everything in the Bible. As I said, I'm not religious anyway, and I don't want to turn this into a religious debate, but I do believe at some level there was a man called Jesus at some point who did great things or was inspirational to lots of people, which led to the stories coming about. And then as things went on, some things were changed and some things were sensationalized and some things were forgotten. And I think it's the same with Irish myths and legends as well. So heroes like Chulainn and Oisin and Fionn McCool and the Fíne and all the different legends, at some level I like to think that there is some bit of truth behind it. And this is supposedly where, if Cuchulainn was a real person, and there was actually a person called Cuchulainn who did like heroic things and fought battles, supposedly this is where he died, where he fought his last battles, at this stone. And the reason why the stone is so integral to the story of the death of Cuchulainn is because I want to try and save most of the story for the actual like narrated video story thing that I'm going to tell. Probably on St. Patrick's. Maybe I'll save it for St. Patrick's Day. Maybe I'll tell it a bit earlier than that. We'll see. But Cuchulainn was involved in a battle and ended up becoming mortally wounded. So he knew he was going to die. He knew like his wounds were, he wasn't going to heal from his wounds and he wasn't going to be able to continue. But he didn't want to die on the ground. He didn't want to die lying down or on his knees or on his back. So with his last ounce of strength, he tied himself either with a rope or his belt. I can't remember correctly, or sometimes, depending on where you're reading the story, it's a rope and sometimes it's a belt, his belt. He tied himself to this stone, can't see it in the thing, to this stone to keep himself standing up, so that when he died, he would die on his feet, standing and facing his enemies. And just the way the stone is leaning, I would assume that he would have been strapped onto this side, I'm assuming. And so his enemies would have been down there where the road is, where I came from. So he strapped himself to this stone so that he could die standing on his feet and facing his enemies. And and his enemies, when they saw him standing, even though they knew he was wounded and possibly dying, nobody from the enemy army would approach him. They were afraid that even though he looked to be not moving and looked to be not dead because he was standing, seen to be standing, they wouldn't approach him for fear that he might have been faking it, and if they got close, that he'd kill them. So I just quickly end up by saying, if anyone is coming to Ireland to visit, this is in the town, near the town of Knockbridge in County Louth. And if you don't feel like you're going to get up here, if you're around the Dublin area and on the O'Connell Street area, the General Post Office on O'Connell Street has a statue depicting that scene of Cuchulainn strapped to the stone and dead with the raven on him, and it's based on this stone as well. So you can actually see that in the window of the General Post Office on O'Connell Street, and it is quite a cool statue to see as well. But being here in person is definitely, for me, it's a bit awe-inspiring as well. and it's great to actually get to see this in person. So this is Mochong Extreme at Cuchulainn Stone. Slán, Hoga Bugge, and remember, rock on!